Greetings and salutation, Gamecock fans. JC Shurburtt here with you with a little breaking news breakdown right here, Chief Sports South Carolina, thebigspur.com, and elsewhere. South Carolina with a surprising pickup in the transfer portal today. Kind of came out of nowhere, but it's a name we're all familiar with. Demon Clowney from, I guess, Louisville, technically. If that name sounds familiar, of course, he's Jadeveon Clowney's cousin. Was a four-star recruit way back, class of 2021, out of St. Francis in Baltimore, Maryland. He's from Maryland. He's from that area up there, and pretty good player. A lot of the guys that come out of St. Francis sometimes are raw but good. They do a great job coaching those guys up. Of course, Jay Barham, he didn't need that much time to develop. He played right away at Maryland, but he's from St. Francis. They put players all over the place. Anyway, he signs with Ole Miss out of high school and was there for a couple of years, changed some positions, ended up transferring to Charlotte, played for the 49ers last season. He has 6.5 career sacks, hadn't played a ton, played 10 games last year for Charlotte. Uh, Guy that's kind of quick off the edge at 6'4", 255. Anyway, he got in the portal and this past off season and went to Louisville. At Charlotte, I think Biff Poggi reunited with him, and he used to be, I believe, had some connections to St. Francis, obviously, and so he gets in the portal, goes to Louisville. I guess he's there, and I guess he decided to get back in and sign with the Gamecocks, his cousin's school, where his cousin's name is on the stadium, and with South Carolina's edge situation, and I wrote about this on thebigspur.com the other day, it was not going to be a complete shock if they targeted an edge in the portal this next period. I, you know, I think this was a situation where he just withdrew from Louisville and came to South Carolina and signed. I don't think there was there was no contact. It's not going to be open the football portal for 6 days, and there's no, I guess, tampering situation with this because as the Wisconsin, there's a D-back at Wisconsin that just left Wisconsin and just went to Miami, and the NCAA said there's no rule against just leaving a school and going to another school, and that's what happened here. Obviously, it's a position where when you look at Jaylen Brown's status being up in the air for next season, and then you look at Wendell Gregory leaving, and he just left and jumped in the portal in the middle of spring. Anthony Addison and Jaquavius Dodd are going to be good, but they're not ideal to get in the rotation. And then you have Desmond Umeozulu and they call him Jatis or JT Gear, and those guys are going to be good, but I mean they rotate six, and if you have an injury or two, you're forced into playing freshmen, and God forbid you have 2 inch. So I look at this sort of as an insurance policy. This is a guy that obviously has a familiar name, hasn't been the most productive guy out there, but hell, neither was Kyle Kennard statistically. But he's played a lot of football. Demon Clowney has played at Charlotte last year. Just looking at some quick clips of him in high school and then some stuff from Charlotte. He's still got a good bit of quickness off the edge. Pretty good pass rusher. Like I said, 6'4", 255. And Sterling Lucas, works wonders with these guys. And I think it's a depth piece that South Carolina could stand right now. I mean, it's a journey in college football and basketball and every sport in college now. Roster construction year to year, it's an ongoing process. And I believe South Carolina, kind of looked at the situation and had this pop up and they went on it. And I think it's good. I think it always kind of made sense for him to come to be at South Carolina in the recruiting originally. That was during some transition. I don't know kind of how it all went down and how he ended up at Ole Miss, but he did. And then, from Ole Miss to Charlotte and Charlotte to South Carolina. Last guy from Charlotte, South Carolina took was Demetrius Knight Jr. That turned out pretty well for them. Of course, Demetrius Knight Jr. was an all-conference linebacker up there. But Clowney, I think he's got some potential. Obviously, I want to be clear; he's not his cousin as a player, but I don't think anybody's asking him to be. I think Carolina needs depth and guys that can come in and compete and play. And this guy's certainly proven he can play at the college level. I mean, I don't think he's been the four-star prospect everybody was hoping that he would be or that projected him to be. But not everybody does. And they end up going and having nice careers and end up helping a team. And I think that's what you're looking for right now. You have Dylan Stewart at one end, Brian Thomas Jr. right now at the other. I mentioned Desmond and JT. And then after that, it's freshmen. So if you're even going to rotate four, and one guy has to miss because he's injured or whatever, then you're down to three, and you can't rotate four. And it's very, very important in college football to keep your defensive line healthy. And when I look at this guy on film, I think he's a guy. Obviously they're going to have to coach him up, get him ready to go in there and compete. Southeastern Conference. You kind of look at his season he had last year. I don't know what this means, but his best game was against Indiana. I've talked about Indiana quite a few times on Inside the Gamecocks and the BigSpur.com and places like that. He had 4 tackles season high. He's had some production here and there. And like I said, when you watch his highlights, these are just highlights, right? He does flash some. Good quickness off the edge. Long-armed guy. Very built like a defensive end. That type of player. But, surprising news today. Ironically, I was talking about Jadeveon Clowney today and kind of in the sense that Dylan Stewart was a player that had a chance to leave a legacy a lot like Jadeveon, and bang, his cousin pops up. So maybe I shouldn't have talked about that or mentioned that. And, because maybe the spirit of Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, he's obviously alive, but maybe there's some mental waves coming my way. Like, hey, don't forget my name. Here's the cousin. I don't know. But I look at it like this. I think that athleticism, length, size, what you look for, experience, an older player, obviously a legacy at Carolina. People are going to ask about NIL. I have no idea. I would guess it's probably not something that is going to impact the budget coming up for the next period, where Carolina will definitely target a defensive tackle and maybe some other positions. Who knows? But I do believe this was a need. I do believe the need here is depth. I can't rule out they may, if something else comes up and it's a good player, I can't rule that out. But I think this is a depth piece with Demon Clowney. I've seen his name. Some people say it's Demon. Some people say it's Damon. But it's Demon Clowney. And I saw in a media guide, I think it was from Ole Miss. It's a Damon. It's a Damon, but it's spelled Demon. So Demon Clowney. And good day. Always good to see Gamecocks with names come back home. And this was a recruit a while back. I never really understood quite what happened, but he's a player, I think, that's still to reach that potential that he had coming out of Baltimore as a high school player. And maybe he just doesn't. Maybe he's not going to get there. But to reach that potential, there's got to be some development. And I think, here's the thing. Ole Miss has one set of way of doing things. Charlotte has another way of doing things. Louisville obviously did. But, every player that transfers to Carolina says that they do things a lot different. In a lot of ways, they insinuate that it's harder under Luke Day and with the nutrition and the way they practice. And so maybe this is the right fit to get the most out of this guy. Like I said, I'm not predicting all-star, all SEC performances here. I do believe that right now the projection would be a depth piece. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe, I hope he starts and stars. That would be amazing. If South Carolina, and they did, they maximized Kyle Kennard. Why couldn't they maximize this guy? But right now, that's the projection depth piece, I think. And I think it was needed because you start looking and look, Anthony Addison, Jaquavius Dot, they're going to be really good players, two in-state guys. They've almost, one is a really good football player now in Addison. He's got to bulk up and get the size necessary, 6'3", 230 now. The other has the size in Dodd and is a good football player. It came a long way in high school, but he's kind of like Desmond Umazula. He's going to have to develop a bit. So not that you don't want those guys to go play, right? If they can good enough to play, they're good enough to play. But what you want is to maintain a rotation at that position that won't get you beat. How about that? It's going to be you're going to be able to sub and then have Dylan Stewart, Brian Thomas, or whoever starts on that other side eventually, fresh and ready to go to rush the passer in the fourth quarter when the offensive line obviously will be gassed. So there you go. I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be the only pickup for Carolina. I guess we're in the second portal period, though it hadn't started yet. Would this technically be the first? I don't know. But it's not going to be the only football player that Carolina picks up and adds to Shane Beamer's roster for 2025 between now and then. But wanted to get with you right away. Demon Clowney coming in from a complicated journey, from Louisville, but he was only there for a little bit, really from Charlotte. That's where he played last year and started off at Ole Miss. 6'4", 255, Baltimore, Maryland, cousin of the great Jadeveon Clowney. JC Shurburtt here. I'll be back with coffee in the show tomorrow. Hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday evening. See you.